to the Laurence McKenna channel, where Liverpool have just beaten Manchester United 4-0 at home at Anfield, putting Liverpool top of the Premier League table, if only just for a day, because Man City play on the Wednesday against Brighton. That is by no means a foregone conclusion, but let's look at the result that we had today, because Liverpool were very impressive from start to finish. I think there was never really a doubt that Liverpool were going to win this match from the second you saw them sort of zipping it around like that. There's clearly a confidence that has been imbued in this side for multiple reasons. I don't really think it's down to the way that they're playing, or it's not, and I don't mean style, I mean as in the confidence with which they are playing right now. I think there have been certain fundamentals that Klopp and his training staff will have been nervous about. There will be certain elements you could see they were tinkering and tweaking and trying to work out exactly what the balance of the team is. How can they get the team to go forward, backwards in a balanced manner? How can they get balance in that back line? Well, here we've seen that balance in that back line. And I think when Liverpool's back line is balanced, be it with Konate and Van Dijk or Matip and Van Dijk, and obviously other players involved, we see that Liverpool are so much more stable, not only at the back, but also going forward. And as a unit, this team is so much more impressive. There were so many good performances tonight from Liverpool. Thiago ran the midfield. I thought he was fantastic. Like, there were so many great touches, passes, little moves that he was just starting off. It's not only this, but it doesn't have to end up in a goal. It's just that he can move the ball in like a quadrant of the field, and Liverpool are suddenly out of a situation, or they're moving forward 10 feet or 10 yards, or they've unlocked something. It's about these small parts of the game which Thiago is winning, which is making a big difference to the overall game. Then tonight, I thought Hendo's pressing and his initiation of the press was fantastic. I also thought Fabinho, whilst I don't think he was the strongest of the midfield three, I think he did exactly what he needed to, backed up the guys, got in all the dirty tackles and the kind of things that a midfielder needs to, like that. And not only that, but when Naby Keita came on, again, he was making those inside runs. He was doing all the impressive things that unlock any of these Premier League defences right now. And you've got to admit, that's probably the most impressive that Liverpool's midfield have looked. And this has been an impressive Liverpool midfield for quite some time now. On the other side of that, I think massive, and I mean really big praise goes to the likes of Joel Matip. It's difficult when you're a centre-back to rotate in and out, and it must be difficult for whoever is the partner of the centre-back in Virgil van Dijk. I think Matip had a great game tonight. There were a couple of times where United looked for an outball and he was always on it. There are a couple of times where I think going forward in particular, he looked particularly impressive. He was part of, I think, the second goal, the second goal for Liverpool, when Mane just sort of flicks it around the corner. A really impressive move again from Liverpool. And then that front three is just absolutely fantastic, aren't they? I love what Salah did tonight. He's finally unlocked some more goals in himself. We always believed in him. We always knew that he would do it. We always knew there was something to come. And frankly, once he got the two, and they were both great finishes, he looked like he wanted his hat-trick. So that's the only thing I think he'd be disappointed with tonight. You could also see his frustration as he was going forward. Every time he was tackled, every time he was fouled, there were a couple of times he's slamming the floor, where he's angry. He's clearly angry at himself and blaming himself for that. So I've got nothing but praise for him tonight. And then the guy very often obviously gets the praise, but doesn't get the end product sometimes, Luis Diaz. I thought, again, a very impressive game from him. And it was all held together by Mane. I think Mane is becoming a very impressive centre-forward for Liverpool, who's doing a lot more of what we would have maybe wanted a more forward-thinking Firmino to do. Firmino is now a bit more of a bit part player. I don't know whether it's just that we see ourselves as more attacking. Maybe we're more informed with Mane and Salah and Diaz at the front at the moment. But it's certainly impressive to watch the balance those guys have got. And what I love is on either wing, we used to see Robertson and Mane on one side. Now we're seeing Robertson and Diaz, or Robertson, Diaz and Mane, or Robertson, Diaz and probably Fabinho because Thiago's floating around. And then on the other wing, you've got your three over there in Henderson on the inside going out, Trent, who's up and down, Henderson dropping back, and then Mo Salah up front, who's, always creating space for other people, always trying to run at people. What I thought was most impressive tonight is Liverpool didn't just attack in one way. There were plenty of different ways that they adapted their game and learned from what Manchester United were doing. It felt a lot more intuitive, and Liverpool, that's the best way I can talk about it. The intuitive play that Liverpool are playing right now really is impressive to me. So I'm impressed by that back line. I'm impressed by the way that Liverpool are building up. But I really wasn't impressed by Manchester United. There was no fight in them tonight. There was very little direction. What looked like this team should, a setup that mean that this team should be sitting back and trying to sustain some of the pressure from Liverpool, They didn't do that. And within 5 minutes, Liverpool had a goal. And it was a very easy goal as well. And it unlocked the whole game for them. It meant that United couldn't play their game plan. I get that United probably wanted to score one and they would have thought they could go the other way. But it just didn't happen for them. And I've got to admit, I was really disappointed. I was expecting something a bit more epic. And actually what we got tonight was a drab, idealist Manchester United who lost Paul Pogba early on. And you know what? Given the circumstances of what's going on with other prominent players at the club, such as Ronaldo, and our thoughts go out to him, I think it's horrible what he must be going through. And, you know, genuinely as a father and also, just a human being, I think it's awful what's going on. And, it was lovely to see Anfield rise for him tonight because, there's more to football than just scoring goals, and it's about being a human as well. And I think it's horrible what's going on there for him. So, I'd like to take a second to say that. It felt a little bit meaningless to tweet it, but I think in a human sense, it must be terrible what's going on for them. They're watching someone, and they probably did watch someone going into that Norwich game on the weekend who wasn't 100%, and that's probably a massive understatement. I'm trying to find a nice way of putting it, should we say. So there's a lot of disruption, should we say, going on at Manchester United. And again, that's probably quite a crass term to put it as, but you get what I'm saying. There's a lot of change, and that must be very difficult for Manchester United to deal with, and I get it. But Booth made the point tonight on the stream, is like, you've also got to go out there and represent the club. You've got to instill them with a sense of pride. And the only time when that pride seemed to come through was with some sort of malice, when they were trying to kick Liverpool off the ball, when they were trying to dispossess them in quite crude ways, when they were not winning the ball and they were actually getting dispossessed quite easily, or the game plan wasn't going right and they were having to kick Liverpool off the ball. There's a lot of frustrating things going on there. But it's that control of the midfield that Liverpool have got, and the control overall that Liverpool seem to have throughout a midfield when they do play well and they are ticking over, that makes a massive difference. And Klopp will be so happy with that. There was balance, there was fight, there was great pressing, and frankly, they confused Manchester United tonight. They looked at sixes and sevens, they looked very confused, they looked very unbalanced. And I felt almost bad for Manchester United at that point, because I remember what they were like a few years ago. I remember when I used to be nervous about them coming to Anfield. I remember when I used to be nervous about going to Old Trafford. But this season, that's 9-0 on aggregate. And I don't even have to I don't have to add any stat to exaggerate that. This is literally just the way it is right now. Liverpool have become such a dominant side against certain teams. When they try and play Liverpool in certain ways, it becomes very easy. And the fact is, Liverpool didn't even have to leave maybe second gear tonight. There were times where maybe United slightly pushed them into that place. But there was no structure within the team. The structure that they did think they had, or the structure they wanted to play, certainly didn't have that balance or anything to upset Liverpool like that. So again, I just feel that Manchester United are currently sort of coasting under Ralph Rangnick. And that is no judgment on Rangnick as a football director, but it is a judgment on him as a coach. And whilst they brought him in as an interim, I don't see him as much more than that, if I'm quite honest. And if they want to push for this top four, there needs to be some sort of carrot put there, or is it a stick? And that's the real question, is what is going to motivate these Manchester United players right now? Because they look completely out of ideas. They look angry with themselves, and the fans are clearly angry with them, and rightly so. Manchester United fans don't deserve this. They certainly don't deserve a humiliating defeat like that at Anfield, and it is humiliating for Manchester United. Not because it was an equal contest that in the end, ended closely. This is 4-0 to Liverpool, and a humiliation at Old Trafford as well. Manchester United fans, I'd like to know what your thoughts are in the comments below. If you watched this far, what do you think it is that you need to do? Is it, really you're going to be offering kind of blind solutions right now? You don't know whether Ten Hag's coming in. You don't know what Ralph Rangnick's going to do. You've heard from Rangnick this week that to the board he's given these suggestions. Will that be a Christian Nkunku or someone like that? Will it be someone who is young and up and coming? Will it be someone who's the equivalent of a young Sadio Mane, a young Mo Salah, a young Naby Keita, all these players that Ralph Rangnick listed earlier on today in his pre-match press conference, or was it the day before? One or the other. And then the other way, this Liverpool team have now put the pressure on Man City. And that storm that we said was coming, in it, they're holding their heads up high at this point. And there's something very impressive about the way that they play. There's a balance and a confidence and a cockiness to an extent to this Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson side. And I think the apex of it is somewhere between Thiago, Fabinho, Henderson, Thiago, Fabinho, Keita. Depends on how well these eights get forward. And I know that Jordan Henderson enjoys playing more as an 8 than he does as a 6. So it's going to be interesting to watch what happens over the next couple of days with this side. What happens over the next couple of days as they will play, obviously, on the weekend. And then they go into the first leg of the Champions League at Anfield. There's a lot to come for this Liverpool team. They're looking very confident. And all I would say is, so far, they haven't faced a side at full strength. And I think that is going to come at some point. It certainly will come in the Premier League when someone wants to knock Liverpool off their perch, but it'll certainly come in the Champions League when Villarreal want to get at Liverpool and want to prove something. So, don't count your eggs before they've hatched. There is still a long way to go in this season. And whilst we might be confident, lean into that, make that the side's identity. Let's not get too cocky with it because it's still very much in City's hands. There's pressure on them tomorrow night, but it's very much in City's hands to win. And I think a lot of City fans are confident they'll go away and win it against Brighton. Sorry, they'll go home and win it against Brighton because, Brighton play a very similar way to Man City in the sense they play quite open football, which is open to be exploited. United were also very open to be exploited tonight. By the way, my man of the match this evening was a mixture. I think it's Thiago. But I also really appreciated what Matip did, and I really appreciated what Salah did. And someone I haven't even mentioned, but I always mention on my post-match reviews, was Alisson. I thought it was fantastic. I think his distribution was great. I think his vision for passing was really good. There were a couple of times where he slipped. There were a couple of times where it didn't quite look like he had much time. There was that little chop that he did, which I just loved early on. And I love that element of confidence with him. He is just the kind of goalkeeper that he's a once-in-a-lifetime kind of goalkeeper. And, there was the equivalence... The equivalency drawn between him and other iconic Liverpool goalkeepers by Jamie Carragher earlier in the week, and he said, Ray Clemence was great for Liverpool. What Alisson's doing right now truly is very impressive, and I know Ray Clemence won a lot, but in the modern age, we're looking at a very similar figure for Liverpool right now. It's a pleasure to watch. And then the enforcers. I'll finish on the enforcers here. They deserve credit because when you've got a Robertson out there, when you've got Henderson out there, when you've got Milner coming on, and the United players are kicking through the Liverpool team, Fabinho's out there, we don't have a Canate, someone like that, and Van Dijk doesn't even need to get involved. You need people who are just going to keep a sense of order. If you're going to do something to Trent, if you're going to do something to these guys out in the pitch who are maybe not as feisty, should we say, as the likes of Robertson or Milner or Henderson, then we're here to enforce. And a couple of years ago, I had this conversation with my dad. He said to me, when we lost to Real Madrid, we don't have those enforcers that make us harder to beat. And at the time, I found it hard to see because I wanted to see that Van Dijk was hard. I wanted to see that Henderson was that kind of person. I wanted to see that. But this team has come on since then. This team has evolved since they lost that Champions League final. And you can see it evidently in every game they play now. They're a team. There's balance this side. And every player knows they're under protection of X, Y, Z out there. It's impressive to watch, and I've got to admit, there's a real sense of pride for me tonight. I should be going crazy because Liverpool have just won 4-0 at Anfield, but I know this is a marathon and not a sprint. And at the moment, Liverpool are just jogging against Manchester United, but they're going to have to be points where they up the pace. I think that comes this weekend, and then in the first leg of the Champions League. So join me for all of that. Join me tomorrow night as well when I'll be reviewing the Man City versus Brighton game and also the Arsenal versus Chelsea game. But until then, enjoy your night. I love you guys. See you later. Bye.